Evening, everyone. You can be seated. I'd like to welcome everyone to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Teacher Certification class here, headquartered here in Abilene, as we continue in the responsibility unit, which we've been moving right along pretty smoothly here. And as we are in the chapter number 5, which I don't think I read the beginning of that last class, but it's chapter 5. It's not a one-time thing. All right, chapter 5. It's not a one-time thing, and that's where we're continuing on here this evening. Welcome to those who might be joining us online or who are joining us online. I know we have a lot of regulars and some new. Just to kind of give you an update here, or an idea for those who might be freshly joining us in this chapter here. The purpose and objective is that the students will learn that they have a responsibility to themselves to continue to make choices that will support the development of their positive moral character. Okay, continue to make choices. So we're talking about maintaining, right? Maintaining this character trait of responsibility, which this entire book is dedicated to here, and then the little steps, like rungs on the ladder, that'll get you to the top. All these lessons are like 7 rungs on the ladder that will help you to get to the top of the ladder, so that you can be able to see clearly, to make better decisions, to make wiser decisions, to have all the information, to get the facts. And that's what you're presented with in these classes, what you're learning, so that you can teach your students to give them the facts, so that they too will be able to make responsible choices as they are preparing to go into the next phase of their life, as they transition from adolescence to adulthood, not only in age, but in hopeful maturity mentally, being able to use the skills and the knowledge that they have obtained through their formative years to help them to be respectful, positive, contributing citizens to the society that they're going to be a part of. We all being a part of the global society, irregardless of where we might live, but in that particular area where they live, they do have a direct impact. So that's what we want them to do. But like I've mentioned many classes before, part of the goal of the Peaceful Solution in changing the hearts and the minds of the people is to get the student who are attending these classes to see what's being presented to them as valuable. They have to see it as valuable to them. When a person sees something as valuable, they'll go out of their way to do what they can to make it a part of their life, or to guard it and protect it, to maintain it, and so forth. When people don't care about things, they just, whatever, right? I'll just get another one. Well, you can't do that with character. I ruined this character. I'll just get another one. Or I'll go to the Reputation store. I think they sell those at Walmart on the clearance aisle, right? Get one that's a little bit better than mine. Maybe not perfect, but at least something that's a little bit better than mine, right? Well, there are no do-overs in life. There are no do-overs, no second chances, so to speak, when it comes to these types of things. Now, we can, once we learn from our bad choices or our mistakes, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that this evening, hopefully, we can, or they can, determine and set their mind in advance to make better choices, to not continue to repeat those same patterns of behavior or the same patterns of thinking that led to the patterns of behavior. Why were the thoughts there? Well, as we've learned in the Peaceful Solution, there's many things that contributes to a person's pattern of thought, right? The influences, the teachings, the environment that they grow up in, all these things that help to make up and contribute. These are contributing factors to the development of their character. Well, these are the things that have found a home in a person's heart and mind, and they are directly related to how they think. So in order for that to change, they have to have a new program, so to speak. William and the other teachers have brought many examples of the programming that people receive, sometimes just sitting in front of a television. Those things are meant to program your mind, to train your mind, to get you into a certain pattern of thinking. Advertisers do it all the time, right? With their advertisements and their billboards and their their commercials that come on, their catchy tunes and things of that nature. So when you hear that, you're programmed to think about their product. Well, our product that we're promoting is character education. And, we want people to think about, certain things when they encounter certain things in their life that might be a trigger. We want them to remember the peaceful solution so that they can go, well, how can I resolve this in a peaceful way? And that takes many, many years, many hundreds of hours of training and putting these things into practice. That's where it becomes somewhat the challenge, because it's one thing to read it in the book and see it on the page. It's another thing to be faced with someone who's, disrespecting you, cursing in your face, or calling you names, or starting rumors about you, or telling lies, or whatever the case might be, and you handling yourself in a respectful, moral, responsible way, right? And so that's a step-by-step process. Like I said, none of these things are meant to occur overnight. We can start to begin to see the effects of the lessons as we put them into practice on a daily basis fairly quickly. But the change, it takes a while, and everybody has different levels of learning and aptitude and so forth. As a teacher, you'll see that when dealing with your students. You're going to have students that, some pick up things really quick, right? And then you can actually use them to help in the class in certain things, and explaining or teaching things or being a part of examples. And some that takes a little bit more effort and work to get it into their mind. There are different types of learners. Some are visual, some are audio, some have to learn by actually doing it. And you've got to try to incorporate all these things into your teaching skills, which is actually given to you in the Peaceful Solution curricula here, with the different narratives and activities and so forth, to incorporate all those different types of learners in your class. So if you stick with the program, you will have success. All right, so let's go back here to, let's look at Lesson Plan 5, page D. In last class, we finished out Procedure 5, and we're going to be getting into Procedure 6. And we'll go ahead and read that there. And it says, tell students that maintaining a responsible character also includes how we treat others. Remind students that in Lesson 1, you can count on me, they learned that we are morally responsible for each other. Have students read the section. It's about People 2, found on page 86. Stress that we all have a responsibility to treat others with respect and compassion. Pages 88 through 89 can be assigned as homework if you were in that environment with your students. You can assign those things to them, and you can go over the assignment on the next class. All right. So now we're going to continue here where we left off last class. We're going to be picking up on page 86. But just as a reminder, in the previous class, we talked about life on the flip side, right? And how when people make spur of the moment or impulsive choices without considering if they're moral or immoral, right or wrong, we were talking about that on page 83 there, it can lead to some consequences of which a person might have to pay a heavy price for. And we talked about the two accountings there. One of was, what was this guy's name here? Henry? Yeah, Henry, who got into some hard times, and he robbed the store, and he ended up getting a jail sentence. And then Michael, who was another one, who, we see a little bit more into this young man's story, where he was actually being trained. He was being guided by his father to try to help him to develop a skill so that probably one day he could, have a position or take over the father's business. But he saw the allure of riches and fun times through the drug trade. And he ended up getting caught after 2 years and losing, as he said here, he lost his discipline, and as a result, he lost his freedom, which he acknowledges for a certain time period in his life when he was in that environment and his mind was focused on what his father had assigned him to do. He had discipline, right? And even he accounted of his history there, that he had loads of responsibility at the very young age of 17. His father entrusted him with a lot of things, but his focus got off, whatever the influences were, and he ended up getting involved with some bad people who got him involved with some bad practices, and those consequences eventually 2 years later, but they did catch up with them. All right, so let's look at page 86 here as we begin, where it says it's about people too. And at the very top it says you must also maintain responsible interactions with others. Now, if you remember, everything we've covered in the previous lessons, and we've talked about it and gone over. In fact, here we take a look at this definition of this word interact here. To interact is to act upon, and that's the example that we give in the Peaceful Solution Glossary as well. To act upon, do something, exert energy or force, to act on, or notice there, exert influence on. And as an adjective, it is acting upon or influencing each other. And just keep that in mind when you think about that word interaction, which we have seen it many times throughout the Peaceful Solution. It's not just, something taking place from one person to another. That's a part of it. But those interactions also, as we saw in the definition, they exert a certain influence on other people. And depending on the interaction, it could be a negative or it could be a positive influence. So that's why we as teachers have to be very mindful of how we interact with our students, because we are also influencing them. We're also setting an example before them, not just our students, but pretty much every time in your life. If we look back, or you can write down for your notes, here it is, how interactions tie into influences there on page 55 of the character unit. This is under making of a VIP. And at the very bottom there, it says, measure yourself by the things you value. And it says, we live in a world of constant interaction. Now, remember what we're talking about, maintaining a responsible character or maintaining responsible interactions with others is just as important as being responsible ourselves. All right. So we live in a world of constant interactions. These interactions influence the way we think, feel, act, and ultimately what we value. Right. If you go to some place that you've never been for the first time, and then you have a really bad experience there because of how people interacted with you, if you got the service that you wanted, or you got too much service, or the service was excellent, whatever the case might be, that's going to influence the way you think, feel, and act and what you value, right? There's some people who don't like to go to certain home improvement stores because they say, I can never find an employee. I need help and I can never find an employee, right? Or when I do find an employee, it's like you got to move heaven and earth to get them to do their job. Could I get something off of the aisle here? Well, I don't work in this area, but I guess I can come over. It's like, well, can you at least find me somebody, please? And kind of act like you at least like it here a little bit. I mean, you'd almost make it feel like, this is a part of their terms of their freedom. They have to work this miserable job. You almost wonder if they got an invisible ball and chain attached to their ankle when they're on the clock. But that can influence the way you think and feel about that situation. You might say, well, I like to go to the other department store because as soon as I walk in there, people are greeting me with a smile. They're asking me if I need any help with anything. And when I do need some help, it's very easy to find an employee, and they seem to be very willing to help me. So those interactions can influence what you value, how you think, how you feel, and so forth. Influences can have either a positive or negative effect on our character. It's up to you to be aware of how these influences will affect what you value and your choice to obtain a positive character. So they have the potential to, just like any other influence. It's up to us, though, to determine what we're going to allow in or what we're going to ignore. All right. And then another point on that, these interactions, think about it. It's how we relate to and we interact. That's a little bit more on that interactions. But it starts how we relate to and interact with others. It actually starts pretty early in life. when you think about it. When you look at one of your young students, and you think about how they're dealing with you as a teacher, you can't always take these things personally because that pattern of behavior started very early in life. In fact, on page 35 here in the character unit, this is the effects of character within the family. And we see here it's under the introduction. It says, your parents and your environment, as well as other siblings and family members, play a major role in what you value and the development of your character. It has been stated that all forms of parental interaction, verbal, physical, or otherwise, assist in reinforcing children's values and behavior. Now, get that, all forms of parental interaction assist in reinforcing children's values and behavior. Notice it didn't say positive or negative, because it can be either positive or negative, because children will value those things based on what they see coming forth in their beginning stages of life, right? The first 5 or 6 years or so, for the most part, that's all they know. That's their environment. Even if they do go to like a daycare or a preschool or something like that, the rest of the time it's at home. That's what they know. And so they'll adopt those values and those ideologies and so forth, what they see in their environment, what they hear coming forth from their parents, how they see their parents respond to others, or how they respond to them, or how they teach them or guide them, or the lack thereof. And that will become a part of their character as they move forward in life, even without them even knowing it, right? Because they're not even thinking. A child, a 5-year-old, is not thinking about developing a positive or a negative character. They're just existing, so to speak. And then at the very last paragraph, it says, the role of parents and the family in shaping a positive or negative character cannot be overstated. In this chapter, you will learn that character plays a key role in families. Negative or positive character has the ability to destroy a family or strengthen and build the family unit. And then on page 105 here, on page 105, we see about social interactions. Because remember, we're talking about maintaining responsible interactions with others. On social interactions here, on page 105 in the character unit under chapter 5, the ripple effect, character, society, and the world, it says, our character dictates our behavior and our action. It is the foundation by which we interact with others. So when you question or when you see certain things taking place, you know that part of it is stemming from the person's character. And in order to change the behavior, you have to change the influences and the instructions, the teachings, and so forth, the values that led to the development of that character. Now, by the time we're dealing with them as teachers, right, we have to take into consideration that end result of what we're seeing with that character, it didn't occur overnight, right? It took a while for that to develop. So I say that to remind, teachers, don't be frustrated when you don't see the results coming forth from your students right away. It does take time. Be patient. Let's see here. Then it says, when a group of people live under a common body of laws and shared common values and interests, they are called a society. Oh, I skipped something. Oh, as human beings, we need to interact and associate with others. It is this need to belong that compels us to have friends and people we can interact with and feel accepted by. It is this same need to belong that compels adults to marry, raise families, and allow people to form neighborhoods and communities. And then it talks about developing a society when you have groups of people under the same common interests, values, and so forth. So at the very bottom it says, we live in a society where our need to belong makes us interdependent upon each other. Because we rely on and need each other, our behaviors affect one another in both positive and negative ways. Well, our behaviors in how we interact with each other, right? It affects our neighbors, our coworkers, our schoolmates, our peers, our supervisors, the people that we work with or work under us, subordinates or whatever. It affects them in either positive or negative ways. Our ability to affect each other is like a stone dropped in the pond, causing one ripple after the next, each one larger than the one before. And then, of course, it talks a little bit about the ripple effect. All right, so back to page 86 in the responsibility unit here. So you must also maintain responsible interactions. This means not doing or saying anything to intentionally disrespect another person. Now, you know, doing or saying something that could bring about that disrespect is also an influence, right? It can influence a person's response. Now, as teachers of the peaceful solution, we have to remember not everybody's being trained to develop a positive character, okay? And so with that, we have to be proactive in, even if we do say or do something and we catch ourselves, we should quickly apologize, right? Correct the situation. Not like, there you go, chew on that for a little bit, see how that burns. No, because all you're going to do is you're going to create some enemies as a result of it. And then, what's going to be thrown back up in your face is, oh, I thought you were a teacher of the peaceful solution. Now all of a sudden everybody knows the peaceful solution, but we have to be very proactive and very mindful of the things we say and do and how we interact and treat others, because believe it or not, as teachers of the peaceful solution, you are held to a higher standard. People do begin to expect a little bit more from you when they're around you, even if they don't always like to hear what you have to say, because it's a little bit revealing and condemning sometimes, but they do recognize that your behavior, if you're consistent in it, makes you a person of integrity. And that's, at the very least, something that they can rely on. So this means not doing or saying anything to intentionally disrespect a person. Now, if you remember what we covered in the respect unit, this is an opportunity to kind of draw your students' attention back to the respect unit there on page 10. 10? Yeah, page 10. Let's see here. There we go. When you don't do anything to intentionally disrespect another person, you're actually showing kindness. And that's what we cover here on page 10 under Getting to Know You. At the very top, it says, another important reason for relating to people respectfully is that it allows you to get to know them. Respectful interactions involve not only the basic respect for all life, but also the following. And it goes over 5 points here, but the one I wanted to cover here was kindness. And that is, treat others with concern for their feelings. Do not speak or act in a way to intentionally hurt them. And that's what kindness is. Essentially, that's what kindness is. But, you think about that. We just got finished reading in that paragraph. An important reason for relating to people respectfully is that it allows you to get to know them, right? Because when people see that you truly care for them and you're not there to take advantage of them or to defraud them or to deceive them or anything, they tend to open up a little bit more, right? There's a little bit of trust that's built there, and they're willing to talk and interact with you and so forth. And trust is very necessary. It's very important in relationships, any type of relationship you might have, professional or private or whatever the case might be. But, we should never do anything that intentionally disrespects another person. On page 117 in the same manual there in the respect unit, remember we covered those 4 types of disrespect. Again, this is something you can bring back to the memory of your students there. On the very bottom on page 117, and we're talking about disrespect and how it hurts. As you can see, disrespect can be real or imagined, intentional or unintentional. And with so many ways that disrespect can occur, it is up to you to be prepared to deal with each situation appropriately. So now you see it being talked to that instruction being directed to the person, right? Must be prepared to deal with it appropriately, but we also must be prepared to handle ourselves appropriately so that we don't intentionally or even unintentionally show disrespect to another person. A person with a positive moral character will always make an effort to handle even the most difficult situations in a respectful way. Now that is if that person has developed, is trained and developed a positive character, and they're working or taking the steps daily to maintain it, right? Unlike your car that you might only have to change the oil every so many thousand miles, or some people's mindset with some of these cars, not really a mindset, but some of these cars, it's like an auto oil change. It just, oil leaks out and you have to put fresh quarts in every day. So it's a perpetually changing, oh, I got fresh oil in there. What are you talking about? It just leaks out all the time, transmissions and everything else, coolant. That's not a getaway car, because you could just follow the trail, right to the person. But unlike that, or things in your house or certain tools you might have, your character has to be maintained on a daily basis, because we need our character to respectfully and responsibly conduct ourselves in a positive manner every day and every situation. So that means we have to constantly keep ourselves in check. It kind of reminds me of like when you first turn on a vehicle, and I'm assuming it's not just only for vehicles, it's probably for other things as well. But when you turn on a vehicle, there's a little computer within that car, the brains, that checks all the different sensors and systems, right? And then when you turn on the vehicle and the engine's running, it's still, well, it does it all the time, but it's checking these things all the time, making sure it's atmospheric pressure, temperature, fuel pressure, all these different things, so that when you turn that key on, your car will fire up and the timing it'll adjust and everything, and everything will function just perfectly, right? Now, we don't think about that when everything's working smoothly. It's when we turn that key and then, our car's spitting and sputtering and smoke's popping out the back and it's backfiring and waking up the neighbors and the cats are screaming and the crows are crawling and everything, that we think, uh-oh, I wonder if I should have changed that oil or changed that spark plug, 200,000 miles ago, or whatever the case might be, right? Well, with our character, we have to be on top of things, because it's too late when we're in a fight, right? Because you didn't decide or determine in your mind to practice self-control, or to be responsible with your words, or be responsible with your duties. So in the next paragraph, there are a sentence there. It says, consistently treating someone with kindness, respect, and compassion means considering how you would want to be treated if you were in that individual's shoes. Now notice it didn't say anything about if you did or did not like that person, right? Your treatment, your showing of respect to that person should not be determined by how you feel about that person. Remember what we covered in the respect unit. Everybody deserves respect. Everybody deserves respect. So even if that person is somebody who rubs you the wrong way, or gets under your skin, or, gets on your last nerve, the very last one in your body, right? You still must show them respect, right? We should always strive to be the highest in moral excellence in the room. And I don't mean it from a competitive standpoint, but we should always be striving to be the best that we can be in displaying a positive moral character, okay? If you want to compete with yourself, compete with how you were the day before, or the week before, or the year. So put yourselves in their shoes. Sometimes people say and do things that frustrate, upset, or annoy us. Regardless of how frustrated or angry you are with someone, you must maintain self-control. All right, and that reminds me in page 115 of the respect unit, because these lessons here tie perfectly in to the previous lesson that we covered in respect. Page 115, 16, and 18 here. We're not going to read the entire thing, but points out of it under responding to disrespect, because we're talking about regardless of how frustrated or angry you are with someone, you must maintain self-control. So that's why you can't use the excuse, oh, well, they did that, or they did this to me, So that's why I got mad and I did this, or I did that, or I responded in this way. Well, that might work in the hero movies or whatever that they have out there, but it's not the proper way to conduct ourselves. Remember what we learned at the very beginning, the author's father, him hearing in his presence many times, two wrongs don't make a right. Well, under the introduction there on page 115 in the respect unit, it says interactions between friends, family members, and strangers can become disrespectful if one or more persons behave and speak without considering the feelings and needs of others. So how should you respond when someone treats you disrespectfully? Should you retaliate and be disrespectful in return, or should you try to ignore the person and the situation? When someone is disrespectful to you, you might automatically want to retaliate by either attacking verbally, physically, or both. Any action that can result in harm to others or yourself is not practicing the peaceful solution or demonstrating a positive moral character. On the other hand, some acts of disrespect can have such a negative effect on us that trying to ignore them might not be possible and could in fact lead to hatred and resentment. And at the very bottom here, it says, in the previous chapter, you explored some of the ways people disrespect each other and individuals in society. In this chapter, you will learn how you will appropriately respond to disrespect or when disrespect is shown to you and maintain your positive moral character, which is the goal of what we're talking about in this lesson, maintaining a responsible character. And then on page 116, the very next page, it says, without determination to make positive choices and deal with disrespectful situations appropriately, it can be very easy to respond disrespectfully in return. So, you've got to have, the student has to have that determination. They have to set their mind in advance. They have to be determined. People know, generally speaking, people know if they're the type of person who has a short fuse, right? If they're easily agitated by something, okay? Now, that in itself, and the initial recognition of that, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but, to hold on to it and continue in that, yes, all right? Because you're learning these things because we're not perfect in them. And so as we learn them and we recognize poor traits within ourselves, then it's up to us, to put forth the action, take the initiative, be determined and stick with it, be patient, with ourselves and with others as well, as this heart and mind starts to change from negative to positive. This is the trap of disrespect, and many people fall into it. It says here, the truth is it takes courage and moral determination to treat others with consideration even when they are unkind to you. And at the very bottom here in that paragraph, before it gets into the box, it says, responding respectfully to disrespect is probably one of the hardest things you will ever have to do because disrespect is hurtful. So you've got the hurt of disrespect, but then you couple that in today's day and age with the hurt of your reputation. That is the reputation not in someone's eyes who are looking at you from a moral standpoint, but in the eyes of, your peers and so forth, oh, you're going to let them talk to you that way? You're going to go out like that? I can't believe that. If that was me, I wouldn't have let him say that, or I wouldn't have let her say that, right? So people have to, especially a lot of the young people, they have to contend with a lot of different things, and they've got to weigh out all these different emotions and feelings and then be determined to stand fast on morality, irregardless of how it might make them look in the eyes of their peers. Really, at the end of the day, most of these people, I mean, how many of us still hang out with and associate with people we went to high school with or junior high with? I don't know anybody, right? Not for the last 30 or something years, have I been around any of those people. They don't call me, they're not, looking at how I'm doing or anything like that. What they do and what they think of me, so many years ago, it has no bearing on my future. Only if I allow it, right? And it's kind of interesting because when you're in that environment of junior high and high school, a lot of young people think that that's their life. They don't realize that beyond those walls, beyond that date of graduation, there's a whole nother phase that they're going to be starting. And all those things that took place, even the embarrassing things, it's not going to matter anymore, right? But that's our job, to prepare them for adulthood, to prepare them for maturity and so forth, as teachers of the peaceful solution, to prepare them to use their character, their positive character, to their advantage, to be a benefit to others. On page 118 here, under being prepared, and dealing with disrespect, in the second paragraph under yes, yes, yes here, it says, you should definitely be prepared to deal with disrespectful behavior in whatever form it might come. Does this mean that you should walk around expecting people to disrespect you? Absolutely not, right? And sometimes people, they have a hard time coming out of that mindset, because they've come out of an environment where disrespect was so common that if you didn't, all the time watch your back, or all the time be on top of a matter, someone was going to take advantage of you. And that disrespect was not only in the form of verbal assaults, but physical as well. So, we can understand that people come from different environments, and those are contributing factors to how they might be acting. Not that there's anything wrong with being vigilant. Of course, we should be vigilant and aware of our environment and so forth, but we shouldn't have the mindset that everybody's out to attack me because everybody isn't out to attack you. Some people just have different personalities, and they might actually want to get to know you and possibly even be a friend with you. So being prepared simply means to work hard at developing a positive character and setting your mind in advance to make positive moral choices in regards to how you respond to others. And that is one of the greatest forms of strength that you can have, right? Is to know, to be confident in yourself and your ability to put the peaceful solution, which you've learned in the peaceful solution, to practice, to resolve or answer any difficult situation, conflict, or problem that might arise in your life, right? To know that you're capable of walking out of that situation because you've contributed peace towards it and not war. You must decide that regardless of how someone pushes your buttons, you will never purposely try to retaliate by becoming verbally or physically abusive. And of course, if you're not, then you could run into some major issues there in the future. All right. So you do not, so continuing on with that, regardless of how frustrated or angry you are with someone, you must maintain self-control. You do not, and I repeat that again, and I would encourage you when you're going over this lesson with your students, remind them, you do not have the right to curse at, hit, or disrespect a person in any way. In dealing with young people, toddlers sometimes, well, not really toddlers, I guess toddlers too, but, 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 years old. And you get reports about people hitting other people and so forth. And you ask them, well, why did you hit this person? Because they didn't let me have this, right? Or they looked at me funny, or they did this, or they did that. And then, you have to explain to them, that doesn't give you the right to hit a person just because that occurred, right? You can talk and you can express yourself in words in a respectful manner, but you don't ever hit somebody because they do something that you don't like, or they don't allow you to do something that you want them to do. And again, it's a ongoing thing, right? But when we think about today's day and age, this cursing and hitting or disrespect is not only in a person's face, right? There's also the things that we see taking place online, right? When things take place and people decide to get revenge online, and they create these posts about other people and start rumors about other people and say nasty things about other people, right? It's internet bullying that takes place as well, just as you see these responses take place in person. Think about it. If you don't have self-control and the other person doesn't have self-control, you could have a bona fide fight on your hands, right? Well, that means a real, not fake, or genuine. You can have a genuine fight on your hands. Fighting is a lose-lose situation. No one wins, right? They say we go into the last man standing. Back in the day, it was, if someone was offended, I challenge you to a duel. Meet me outside this day and this day, your choice of weapon and so forth. We fight to the death. And that's how they solve their differences. Or a joust, right? You know, it's like, and it was always a war, some type of fighting to solve the differences. How about we talk about this? No, that's not manly, you know? We will fight to the death. And it was always the last man standing. Well, the last man standing does not indicate necessarily the winner. Okay, as we're going to see here at the very bottom of this, I think it's a really great statement here in this last sentence. It says, the one who throws the hardest punch only proves physical strength, not intelligence. Not intelligence, right? And we want to train young men and young women, old men and old women alike, to be intelligent. You know, that's where true strength lies, is in positive moral character. And the displaying, the practicing, the use of that positive moral character, even in a situation that is extremely frustrating to you. You choose not to retaliate, not to fight, not to hit with words or hit with the fist or show any other form of disrespect. That is a sign of moral strength and intelligence. All right. So, and moving on here, it says, here are some other ways you can maintain responsible interactions with others. So 3 points here. Don't be rude, right? Don't be rude just because you're in a bad mood. It seems like sometimes when people are in a bad mood, they want to let everybody know about it, right? Everybody's got to know they're in a bad mood, you know? And they express it, and you see it on their face. You hear it in their words, their tone of voice and everything. It says waking up on the wrong side of bed is on the wrong side of the bed is no excuse to be discourteous or disrespectful to others. You know, I think if a person has a habit of waking up on the wrong side of the bed, they should probably just sleep on the floor, right? You can't wake up. You never hear anybody say, I woke up on the wrong side of the floor today. You know, there are things that can be done if a person has a tendency to wake up in a crabby mood. Now, in a lot of cases I see with a lot of young people who are kind of crabby in the morning, it's because they spent all night on some type of device, on a phone, on a tablet, on a computer, a laptop, whatever the case might be, when they're supposed to be sleeping and getting the rest and the rebuilding of their mind so they could wake up energized and ready to start the day. Well, no. They were on their phone until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. They got to get up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, so they've only had a few hours of sleep, way less than they need to have, a positive mental attitude. But let's just say a person did get the amount of sleep that they needed, and for some reason they woke up and I think we've all kind of woke up and just kind of had this like gray feeling, and it's just kind of a heaviness, and we grab the toast out of the toaster, but it doesn't come off, and then we yank it off, and then it falls on the floor, and then we're upset because it's on the floor, or for heavens forbid, you jelly your toast, and then you accidentally drop it, and it drops jelly side down. It always seems to drop. Jelly on toast must be like feet on cat, right? It just always falls jelly side down. But you can pull yourself out of the bad mood if you want to, right? We have the power and the ability to actually pull ourselves out of a bad mood. The young men and the young women that we're teaching, they can pull themselves out of a bad mood. They're feeling a certain way because they're what? Thinking a certain way, right? They're thinking a certain way. And even if they might sit there and go, I don't know why I feel this way, at the very least, they can redirect their thoughts towards something that's positive, right? Even if you can't pinpoint the cause of this negative pattern of thinking and say, okay, well, I'm going to put that on the back burner for now. I'm going to try to focus on something that is positive, or something that I look forward to, or something that makes me joyous. And you can do that. And there's lots of beneficial tips even online about those types of things, but you don't have to stay in that negative mood, and especially don't go spreading it around to other people. Some people say, well, I'm just not a morning person, right? Well, you're making everybody else mourn by your behavior. You don't have to be a morning person. You don't have to treat other people disrespectfully just because you're not a morning person. And it all ties back into self-control and considering the feelings of others as well as yours, and not just yours. So waking up on the wrong side of bed is no excuse to be discourteous or disrespectful to others. So they need to stop and think, consider how they're feeling, consider how their actions are causing their feelings are affecting their behavior and how that's affecting those who are around them. And then the next point here is, I wanted to show you something here just real quick about mood. This is a definition of the word mood there. If you wake up in the bad mood, a mood is a conscious state of mind or predominant emotion. Notice this tying into the emotions, and we know emotions are not the initial factor in the way we behave, it's our thoughts. So that's why I say you kind of have to go and get back to the thought. A prevailing attitude, which is just the way we think and feel, which is at the forefront. Prevailing is that which is in the forefront, the utmost, impressive. A receptive state of mind predisposing to action, right? So because of the way you're thinking and feeling at that time, it could actually predispose you or cause you to respond or act in a certain way. If you have a negative or a bad mood, you could respond or act in a negative way to some other type of trigger that gets under your skin. Positive would be opposite. All right, let's look at the next point there. It says, got bit by the love bug? Remember, don't touch anyone in a sexual way. All right, just because you might feel, and you notice there it's in parentheses, love bug, right? Because it sometimes can seem to be contagious, But this doesn't give a person a right to go around touching other people. It says control your emotions. Crushes, puppy love, and other matters of the heart are no excuse to behave irresponsibly. Making a sexual joke or joke to them even making a sexual comment or joke to them about them is impolite. And most of these things that you'll see in, junior high, high school, and so forth, a lot of them are infatuations. It's not really true love. It's, what we're learning is true love is displaying through positive and respectful and caring interactions with others. The positive character traits we're learning in the peaceful solution. It's not something that is, there is affection and there is emotion, but it's not based on how this person looks or how this person smells or how they wear their hair or the types of clothes they wear or whatever the case might be. And we have to be mindful to control the things we say about other people, because that person might definitely consider it to be disrespectful, right? And the next point, or the last point there on page 86, it says, bite your tongue before you gossip or spread rumors about someone else. Reputations have been ruined because people think gossiping is a form of entertainment. If you have to report something that you have seen, be sure to report the facts to the appropriate best friend in your inner circle. Oh, wait. Nope, it doesn't say that. It says report the facts to the appropriate person in authority. And that's where you run into problems because you see this take place over here. Oh, man, I got to tell Joey about this right now. He is not going to believe this, what I just saw. Right? Joey can keep a secret. Right? Joey can keep a secret. What's Joey doing as soon as he gets on the horn? Oh, you won't believe what such and such did, and they said this, and they did that, and we've even got video to show it. And next thing you know, something spread throughout the whole campus, right? And it could be something that was totally taken out of context because it was the wrong place at the right time or the right place at the wrong time or whatever the case might be. And this person's reputation can be ruined because someone gossiped about something that they saw without even having all the facts. If a person thought it was something wrong occurring, then they should report it to the proper authority, person in authority. But notice here, report it to a person in authority and not your interpretation of them. Think twice before you offer a negative opinion about someone. Opinions are your personal views and not necessarily the truth. I was going to say they're like eyeballs. Everybody's got a couple of them. Or as I heard said, everybody's got a couple, 2 or 3 of them. I just want to read a couple things here because this shows the the danger of, rumors and gossip, and how it actually affected people's lives throughout history. And these are just some things. This was from mentalfloss.com. You can find a lot of this just online just by typing it in. But 3 examples. One example was of a form of gossip was that Jews were poisoning wells. Reports that Jews ritually sacrificed Christian children were not uncommon during the Middle Ages, but things that took a particularly terrible turn during the spread of the Black Plague. In the 14th century, thousands of Jews were killed in response to rumors that Satan was protecting them from the plague in exchange for poisoning the wells of Christians, excuse me. I said children. At first I meant Christians. In 1321, in Guinea, France alone, an estimated 5,000 Jews were burned alive for supposedly poisoning wells. Other communities expelled or burnt entire settlements to the ground. Brandenburg, Germany even passed a law denouncing Jews for poisoning wells, which of course they weren't. But a rumor had gotten started that they did, and many people lost their lives as a result of it. Brigands were terrorizing the French countryside. Brigands is a word for robbers. In July of 1789, amid the widespread fear and instability of the eve of the French Revolution, rumors spread that the anti-revolutionary nobility had planted brigands or robbers to terrorize the peasants and steal their stores of food. Lights from furnaces, bonfires, and even the reflection of the setting sun were sometimes taken to be signs of brigands, with panic as the predictable result. Provincial towns and villages formed militias in response to the rumors, even though, as historian George Lafargue put it, the populace scared themselves. In one typical incident near Troyes in July 24th, 1789, a group of brigands were supposedly spotted heading into the woods. An alarm was sounded, and 3,000 men gave chase. The brigands turned out to be a herd of cattle. But you see how they got themselves so hyped up because of a rumor that came out? So everything was these potential robbers coming to take them. Great thing no cattle lost their lives that day. This is another one here. Sorcerers were plaguing Indonesia. In 1998, this is a little more recent, a sorcerer scare in East Java, Indonesia, resulted in the deaths of several villagers. The country was in crisis, and while protesters raged in major cities, some in the rural area of, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, rural area town there, agitating for restitution for past wrongs allegedly committed by sorcerers. The head of the local district ordered authorities to move the suspected sorcerers to safe location, a process that included a check-in at the local police station. Unfortunately, villagers took the suspects' visits to the police station as proof of their sorcery and began killing them. Anthropologists who studied the incident said the stories of supposed sorcery, making neighbors fall sick, etc., were based entirely on rumor and gossip. And then a little closer to today's day, Obama, this is former President Barack Obama, was injured by a White House explosion. These days, rumors have advanced technology to help them travel. On April 23, 2013, a fake tweet from a hacked Associated Press account claimed that explosions at the White House had injured Barack Obama. That lone tweet caused instability. Now, this one tweet that went out, right, it caused instability on world financial markets, and the Standard & Poor's 500 index lost $130 billion in a short period. Fortunately, it recovered quick. Eagle-eyed journalists were suspicious of the tweet from the beginning since it didn't follow AP's style of referring to the president with his title and capitalizing the word breaking. So they just said Barack Obama, not President Barack Obama there. So those are just a few examples of how rumors, right, can bring about a lot of harm to an individual or a community, and can even affect, as we just seen there, financial markets if you're not careful. So that's why it gives these 3 points here as some ways in which we can maintain responsible interactions with others. So don't be rude. You know, control yourself. Don't touch anybody in a sexual way, and bite your tongue before you gossip or spread rumors about someone. In other words, that's not giving you the permission. You got to hear what I just heard. You know, kind of like the old knocking on wood thing. Well, let me go ahead and bite my tongue real quick, and that cancels out any bad things that's going to occur. Right? No, you know, as they say, give yourself a swift kick in the pants. You know, if you're somebody who's given to those things, because we need to stop and think. And that's the whole goal behind these lessons here, these points that are being made, is to get the student to remember to stop and think about their feelings, about their actions, and about the things that they say, right? Because those all encompass and make up what we're covering here about interactions and having responsible interactions with other people. All right, let's see here. So let's read this straight talk real quick here on page 87. It says, we all share a responsibility to treat others with care. If you are ever in doubt as to how you should treat someone, ask yourself, how would you want to be treated? If you don't like others cursing at you, then don't curse at them. If having rumors spread about you makes you upset, it will most likely upset someone else if you did the same. Maintaining responsible interactions with others is quite simple. It all boils down to this: think of others and not just yourself. Or be careful, not careless. My side note. Take a bite out of this. Being inconsistent in your duties and interactions can result in many serious consequences. People who are inconsistent and irresponsible cannot be trusted or relied on. And that's from The Peaceful Solution. And, you know, again, it takes many, many hours and sometimes many, many years to unlearn some of the things or the characteristics of irresponsibility or the lack of respect or the lack of care and concern for others, compassion, that a person might have learned the many years before they came to you as a student. You know, your goal is not to change them in a certain period of time. Your goal is to take the time to change them, period, right? And so we're going to stop there on page 87, and we're going to be picking up, this is still page 86 and 89, still fall within procedure 6, because that was going to be what was assigned to you for homework. And if you would, you could actually go and read that before next class, this upcoming class, which is going to be this coming Sunday. I believe David's going to be back up again for teaching, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be this upcoming Sunday, the 14th, at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We hope that you will join us then. We thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope you have a wonderful evening.